I want to talk to you about the degree of complicity here in what you describe as genocide. One of your colleagues referred to Adolf Eichmann, the Nazi at his trial, sought to defend himself by saying that he didn't kill Jews because he was only in charge of transporting them to the death camps. The judges threw out his obscene defence and he was hanged. What degree of complicity do me, you, my listeners have in this so-called genocide? Good morning.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me on. I think you could probably tell by the emotion in my voice yesterday that this is not easy to talk about.
Why? You've talked about it. So
it's not easy to talk about because we're talking about huge subjects here, aren't we? And we're not talking about ordinary people living their lives. We're talking about people in positions of enormous power who are making decisions in the knowledge of the consequences of those decisions, Tom. I know, I know you studied theology at Cambridge, didn't you? So I'm sure you'll have thought about all of these sort of philosophical positions very deeply. I'm also a serious-minded person who thinks deeply about what I say and what I do.
Well, I'm interested then in what you think about the level of complicity that everyone has in contributing to this genocide, contributing to this gas chamber, because, of course, unfortunately, hang on a sec, whether we like it or not, we are incredibly reliant on petrochemicals. Everything from our clothes to our phones to our homes contain oil and gas. So to what extent are people also complicit in this form of, quotes, genocide?
We're not talking about ordinary people, Tom. You're right that our lives are all tangled up with oil and gas. And what we know is that from the 1970s or very early 80s, when I was a child, possibly before you were born, forgive me, I don't know how old you are, that the big oil companies, Exxon, Shell, BP, etc., have known, because they had the world's best scientists at the time. You've probably seen the BBC series Big Oil v. the World. They've known since the 1970s or 80s exactly the impact that they would have. Their scientists told the executives, and rather than them changing course and directing away from utter catastrophe, they decided to hide the science and spend billions over the last few decades on misinformation, disinformation, government lobbying, and they're still doing that to this day. That's why that series by the BBC, Big Oil v. the World, captured all that information that we've actually known for many years now. So we can't say that these people in the oil companies and those people who are enabling and facilitating new oil and gas don't know about what they're doing. It's obvious, and all of us can see it now in the news right now because Mother Nature's showing us what happens when you put more and more carbon in the atmosphere.
Okay, but how...
We know this.
I take your point. How complicit, though, to come back to your description of gas chambers and the Holocaust and the Nazis, how complicit in the Holocaust was someone who voted for the Nazis or the teenager who took part in the Hitler Youth? How complicit are they?
Tom, I think I don't know what you're trying to do here, linking this to like ordinary people. We're all part of a system.
You are the ones that brought up the Holocaust. No, you are the ones that described Nazis. I'm asking you for your thoughts about degrees of complicity. We've talked about the oil executives, and you're right that they're involved, but the argument from Just Stop Oil is that ordinary people, everybody listening, has to take action themselves in order to combat this great problem that we're facing. And if they don't, I wonder to what extent they are complicit.
We are indeed asking people to pick a side, because when we know unequivocally that every single ton of carbon in the atmosphere makes things worse for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and we are sailing past tipping points as we speak, we know that
And what does pick a side mean? What does pick a side mean?
It means speak up and act. It means support civil resistance campaigns, speak up.
So unless we agree with what you're doing and the manner in which you're doing it, you're complicit.
It means speak up against new oil and gas. So it means for you, for example, in your role as a senior presenter on a very big show on LBC, it means you start speaking up against new oil and gas, and you demand that this government end the fossil fuel licensing round that it's doing. And
otherwise, I'm complicit in a Holocaust.
Well, the thing is, we seem to be in a position where people in positions of power in all sorts of sectors in the country and globally think that we can negotiate with the mental melting point of ice. They think that we can negotiate the temperature at which our bodies die.
A lot of people who agree with the thrust of what you're arguing feel like the manner in which you go about it is turning them away, whether it's the method of protesting in some respects, but the language that's being used here is, for some people, completely unnecessary.
Okay, well, I understand the language is unpleasant, but so is wet bulb temperature and dying within a few hours. Yeah. It's horrible. And people, so is the extermination of species that humans rely on.
You can talk about that without necessarily trying, in a way, suggesting that those who don't agree with you are complicit in a Holocaust.
Mia Mottley, the Prime Minister of Barbados, a couple of years back at COP26, she used the phrase climate genocide in relation to the low-lying island states. It's not just supporters of Just Stop Oil talking about this stuff. There are people all over the world, people in the global south who are suffering and dying right now. If you're a mother in Pakistan or a mother in parts of the Horn of Africa and you're failing to be able to feed your baby because you can't produce enough breast milk because you're starving,
terrible. Absolutely appalling.
We have to use real language, Tom. We have to face the honest truth.
Let's use those real examples rather than suggesting that people who disagree with you are apparently complicit in this genocide. I have to leave it there. Zoe, thank you for your time. Zoe Cohen, spokesperson for Just Stop Oil.